welcome back to Just One More Row, our little crafting vlog we got going on here. And I want to let you guys in on some of the stuff that I've been working on in my vacation from YouTube, and some of the end of the year plans, and some of the things that I'm thinking about doing starting next year that are going to be much larger plans. So to start off with, you may notice that the shelf behind me is getting much emptier. So this is because a couple reasons. One, I shop for yarn a little bit differently. So I normally do about one yarn order a year is roughly what I shoot for. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But I don't shop throughout the year for yarn. I do one order and that's it. So I am using up the last bit of the last order right now. And so my shelves are emptying out, and then probably towards the end of the year is when I'm looking at doing another yarn order there. The next thing that you will notice that I have been working on has been this particular, it's a shawl collared ribbed sweater. This is done out of the cotton and merino. Super duper soft, super comfortable. I've worked with this yarn before. I will say, if you are using something that is a cotton or other like plant-based fiber, it's not going to have any give to it. So don't think it's going to be like a lot of other wool where it has some elasticity. The cotton stuff does not. However, it is incredibly breathable. So I like working with it. I don't know if I'll be able to get any more of this yarn, but B, I don't know if I'll be working with it again though, because it is a thicker gauge than I really want to be working with, and I'll get to some of the reasons why I'm saying that later on. But anyway, part of what I'm doing with this is that I have, over the last couple of years, made a number of different sweaters, and you may or may not recognize this one here. This is a vintage cabled and ribbed men's sweater, and I'll go ahead and link the magazine that I got it from down below. I happen to like this sweater. It is very comfortable, but it's also too big, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult to want to wear things when they are uncomfortably oversized. I guess that's the best way to put that. It just does not fit as well as I would like it to. So I'm kind of going through my wardrobe right now, and I already have a number of sweaters pulled that they don't fit as well as I would like them to, but I do want to be able to use them as inspiration for some future pieces to go ahead and incorporate some different items into some future work, and I'll explain a little bit more on this one later on. So, like for this gray sweater here, I really liked this ribbing pattern, so I went ahead and worked on kind of duplicating it up there, but I didn't all over duplicating the ribbing pattern, but the cable pattern tended to be a bit much, so I went ahead and left that off, and I tried something different, which was a shawl collar. I did discover a few things with the shawl collar. One of them, great trick, because you do want your neck to be a little bit higher up than your front here, so that it folds over kind of gracefully like that. The way I've learned to do that was that you go ahead and pick up all of the stitches for your back neck only, and then you kind of work in short rows, you know, go along your back neck, knit 5, come back through, work the entire back neck, knit 5, and so you kind of keep doing that in like a, I guess, reverse short row sort of way, so that your back neck ends up being longer than, or wider depending on your perspective, than your front neck here. And it just lets it fold over, and this does pull up quite nicely around my neck, so I'll probably be working on making another shawl collar pretty soon. This is the first thing. This is the first thing that I've gotten done. The next item that I've been working on, or that I have made, is this right here. It doesn't look like much. It is a knitted skirt. It has an elastic that is encased in the waistband. And I have just added on a little crocheted scalloped edge, which you can see right there. I've also taken this, because this is 100% acrylic. It was the last of my 100% acrylic yarn. Because I am trying to move over to natural fibers after this. 100% natural fibers. We're going to see how that plan works out, but just to kind of cut the acrylic out of what I'm buying. It's a personal goal. So this is the last of my acrylic, and I went ahead and just ironed it, killed the acrylic, and it makes it very, very drapey. Also, everything here keeps its shape, and my edge does not curl at all, because it was doing that a little bit. So I started making the skirts as kind of an experiment. You guys saw in previous video where I took the pink crocheted dress and I went ahead and crocheted a skirt onto that. I also have a knitted piece that started off as a sweater, like a little cardigan, and it was just a little bit too short. I did have some more yarn that was in the same main color of the sweater, and I just picked up around the bottom ribbing, and then I knitted a skirt on, increasing slightly as I went, so that it becomes more of like a 3/4 circle skirt kind of thing. And I tried it as an experiment, and it's really comfortable. Like, really comfortable. It's lightweight, it's flowy, it's got a good drape. I do mine to just below my knees. It's personal preference. Obviously make them as long or as short as you want. But it's really, really comfortable. So I ended up making a separate skirt out of the rest of my acrylic. It's just something that I can throw on when I don't feel like wearing pants today. And again, super, super comfortable. Now, how you make these, I feel kind of silly like putting out there for a pattern, because this is really, really easy to do. If you have a sweater or cardigan or something like that it's just a little bit too short maybe, or that you wanted to add a skirt onto, super duper simple to do that. Literally just pick up around all the way around the bottom, right at the ribbing or whatever kind of edge you have, and pick up around that. And then I divide into either 1 inch or 2 inch little sections. So, just do your math, figure out how many stitches you need for 1 inch or 2 inches. And then you're just going to increase. Your goal is for every 1 inch down, you want to move 2 inches out. And that doesn't sound like a huge rate of increase, but it will become a big rate of increase very quickly. You will find, if you do for every 1 inch in length, you are adding 2 inches in width. Within 3 inches down, have added 6 inches onto this width. Which you do kind of need so that you can get over hips, especially if you have wider hips. You're going to need to increase at a fairly quick rate. And then you can, once you've gotten to over your hips with any amount of ease that you would like, from there you can kind of slow down your rates of increase until you get to a circumference down at the bottom that you're comfortable with. And then just work straight, It all depends on how close to a circle skirt you really want to get. And I'm shooting for maybe twice or between 2 and 3 times whatever my waist measurement is kind of where I'm at. And then figure out how long you need it to be. The great thing about this is that since there's no cabling or lace or colorwork pattern in here, it's just plain stockinette. It makes getting the length very, very easy, and this is a great way to use up scraps or little extra bits like you see here. Like I said, this is the last of my acrylic. And then you can add on any other little lace details. And I find that the crocheted scallops are really nice. And this is kind of where I would go with, being called multi-craftual. Basically, you can do more than one thing. You're not just a knitter, you're not just a crocheter, you're not just a sewist, but you can do a little bit of all of them. I think it's a really valuable thing to be able to do, because then you can add in some details like having a little bit of crocheted edging or crocheted lace. Or you can, if you're mostly a crocheter, you can go ahead and make knitted ribbing if you would like. But it's a very easy thing to throw on. So how to figure out for your waistband if you were just making a skirt by itself, just so you know. I go ahead and figure out what your waist measurement is. So that's going to be the measurement around your body at approximately your belly button, the height of your belly button, or the smallest area up above your hips but below your rib cage. Basically right about your belly button. That measurement there is going to be the top part of your skirt, so you can see that's what that is. Then you're going to take a piece of elastic, and you want to shoot for probably an inch and a half, maybe even 2 inches wide, depending on how broad you happen to enjoy your waistbands to be. And you're going to make that an inch to 2 inches smaller than the measurement of your waist. So if the measurement for your waist is 36 inches, the elastic, you're shooting somewhere 34 to 35 inches. Okay, so you want to be a little bit smaller than you. And the reason for this is that you want the elastic to be snug enough against the body to hold the skirt up against gravity. Okay, but you don't want it so tight that you feel constricted. That's why I say an inch or two. Obviously, if you want, go smaller. There's no reason that you can't. I just shoot for an inch or two personally. So you take that length of elastic, lay it out flat. Then you're going to take the two ends and overlap them by about half an inch, and then you are going to sew that down. And sew it really well. Sew it way more than you think that you're going to need to. So that the two ends of that elastic stay together, and you now have a circle that will fit around your waist. I then cast on for the skirt itself, and I'll see if I can show you here. I work to make this part pretty invisible, so it might be hard to see. This is the wrong side of my skirt, so you can see it's got all the pearls. Right here is the cast on edge for the ribbing for the top. So I go ahead and cast on for the ribbing, and then I work the ribbing for a little bit longer than twice my elastic. So if my elastic is an inch wide, I'm shooting for about 2¼ inches. And that's enough so that I can take that ribbing and I can basically fold it completely over the elastic, and I'm not, pulling on it, so it's not taut. But you want to be able to encase that elastic. So that's kind of what I've done there. Now, because I use a thumb cast on method, which is very big, it's a very simple cast on. It's also, I find, very elastic and tends to be actually pretty invisible, because I work at a finer gauge. Like if anybody really notices my cast on like that, they've been staring at my wrists very closely. So anyway, because I use that thumb cast on, what I will do when I go to encase my elastic, I just literally pick up my cast on stitches and knit them together with the rest of my skirt. So you can kind of see right here where I've done some of that. So I would just pick up my cast on stitches on the other side, knit them together with the right side here, and I knit for about an inch straight without increasing, and then after that I start my increases. Again, the rate I'm looking for, and it's going to vary based on what your gauge swatch says. For every 1 inch in length, so going down, I'm shooting for adding 2 inches in width. And, for some of this, it may be you increase 1 stitch, 16 stitches increase. Or just divide it up into however many little gores that you want, and then you just steadily increasing using your preferred increase method. You could do eyelets. I just do a make 1 increase because it is fairly invisible and I'm not really wearing this out of the house, so no one's really going to see it. But that is basically the setup for a skirt, and it's pretty simple, but it's also a really nice blank canvas. So if you wanted to add lace, or you wanted to add cables, or if you wanted to do color work, as long as you can keep those increases in mind, should be pretty simple. And I do want to work with making some more skirts in the future. So one of the other things that I have been kind of working on is getting back into doing color work, because I really, really love color work. I had a little bit, and so I ended up making this vest. Okay, I'll bring it up a little bit closer. It's a pretty simple, straightforward vest, and I'll go ahead and I will include the book that I got the actual color work pattern from. I really love all over designs like this. So I had a little bit of this tan and green left, and I wanted to go ahead and just use those up as much as I could so that I'm down to like half a skein, because then I can use that in some scrappier projects. But this is a very, very simple vest design, and if you've looked at any of the books I've gone in and talked about for doing stuff that is based on the percentages, that's all I did here. Is I just shot for a 40-inch chest, and the rest of this I worked out with using the percentage method, and it fits very well, and it's very, very, very comfortable. And this particular vest really reignited in me the love that I have for a lot of color work. I really enjoy the challenge of being able to... There's people walking around upstairs. I really enjoy the challenge of being able to do some of these all over patterns, especially some larger ones. And we're gonna get to some of that in a second. But I find some of the vest patterns like this, because they're going to be, not only are they going to be comfortable, they're also very lightweight. I find things like this are also a great and easy way to add color and variety into a wardrobe. As someone who knits a lot, I'm trying now to get to where my wardrobe is more curated, with things that I know for a fact that I'm going to wear and that are going to fit me really well. And again, I cannot emphasize the percentage system enough to go ahead and be able to use that, because those pieces in that system I found they fit the body really, really well. And I've enjoyed working with it, and it's a really simple system once you figure it out. You just need a couple measurements, a calculator, a pencil, or other writing implement. A lot of times I use a whiteboard. Let me show you what I mean. Just in case you're ever wondering, this is what it looks like. Ooh, let me not get my ring lights. Okay. This is basically what my my pattern writing looks like. It's just got a lot of little notes on there, but use a pencil and paper. It's really, really easy to do. You only need a couple measurements, and if you work with a more standard size yarn that you have worked with quite a bit, so you're walking in with an understanding kind of what your stitch count is going to be, it makes figuring the rest of this out really, really easy. So that part there has kind of been reignited. I've really getting back into working with color And I really, really like it. I enjoy it, and I enjoy the challenge of it. And specifically for this green piece here, this, just so you know, this pattern is 32 stitches by 32 stitches. So it is a larger overall repeat. And I liked the larger overall repeat. And in my search to find some more items, I went online to internetarchive.org. Totally recommend them, but you can also use your local library or get on with your local museums, or not even local, but museums, period, if you can get on there. Many will have items up, digital items that you are able to access for free. And Internet Archive is going to have a lot of things that are no longer on copyright that you will be able to access for free. And you can download them because they're all digital. And so I get a lot of my books through there. So I went online and I downloaded an arguably ridiculous amount of books, like 89 of them, to gain some inspiration. So I just spent a couple days going through Internet Archive and just looking up different things, going through different books, flipping through them. I start on maybe something like Pinterest and I just start typing things in. I start seeing what's coming up. So a lot of the books I ended up downloading are actually from the 1500s and 1600s. And so well outside of copyright. So I'm not worried about that. They are within the Creative Commons. So I went ahead and I downloaded them for free. And I started going through there and just kind of, they're for embroidery patterns. So you have some of these books of embroidery patterns that you would find, and I found actually a lot of them coming out of what is now, I think, Germany, because Germany didn't exist then as a country. It's a relatively recent thing. I went ahead and started flipping through those, and I found a lot of really awesome and beautiful patterns. So some of the more intricate knot work, some of the drawn thread work lace, which I was like, this could be a fun, like, play on a granny square sort of setup, because many of them are very symmetrical. To do in crocheting, I thought that would be very interesting. But specifically the embroidery ones, I went ahead and I was like, okay, there's a couple of these that I really, really like. So what I did, I took that embroidery cross stitch pattern, because it is, many of them are on grids, not all, many. And I just recreated it in what for me is Open Office, but an Excel or Excel-like program. I didn't want to do it on Stitch Fiddle because it was like really big. I didn't know how big it was going to be. But I just redo them in like an Excel or Excel-like program, resize everything so that, you actually have little squares. I transferred that cross-stitch design into Excel, and from there, then it's just a matter of counting. So yeah, then you just go through and you start fiddling around and making sure that everything fits whatever kind of color pattern you're going for, whatever kind of style you're going for. If you want bigger pieces of bigger blocks of color, do that. If you want smaller ones, in my case, then go ahead and do that. You may have to add in things. And what I came up with, this is the first one that I'm working on right now. Go ahead and hold that up so you guys can see. And I'm just kind of calling that one Doves and Daisies. There's two separate patterns here. I have a bird pattern down here at the bottom. This actually went through a lot of changes. So a lot of the body of the bird, that wing looks super different. Pretty much everything down here by their feet looks a bit different. And then the base of this flower here, I had to basically redo all of this in here so that it would fit properly. And then I had to add in some little dots and other things like that up at the top so that I didn't end up with like 13 white stitches in between the red stitches. And down here at the bottom with this little curly Q, also to a lesser extent, where I'm having to add in extra little curly Qs and dots and stuff like that, so that I don't have anything that is more than 7 stitches of white or red before I move on to the next color. And this I'm actually going to be turning into the chest piece for a sweater. In a previous walkthrough of some of my my vintage knitting patterns, I had one that was for a children's pattern that had the dotting down around the body and on the sleeves, and then had a band that went across the chest. And so I figured, taking inspiration from that, I'm actually working on it right now, where I have, you can kind of see over here, oh, there it is, the little tiny dots along the body. I have a white cuff on that. So this is going to be going across the chest, and then up on the shoulders I have 2 other sweaters here. They're going to be the inspiration for both the collars and the shoulders. So for one of them, it has shoulder buttons that go along the shoulders, so they're shoulder closures, and I just thought that was just a nice, cute little detail. But what that will also let me do is make a smaller neckline. So it's going to be a little bit higher, a little bit tighter. I'm not going to have that super wide thing that I've got on some of my other pieces. I like them the way they are, but this one I wanted a tighter neckline. And on another sweater, that one, the collar is like a mock turtleneck. So it comes up and then folds down, but it has a back closure so that it actually pins the neck in place. And that's basically what I want to do here, make a mock turtleneck with the side neck the shoulder and side neck closures. So that basically you're just going to create a collar on the front, work it for about 6 inches, fold it in half, and then you're just going to come along the shoulders and up the side of the collar, and then put a button band on it. I just thought it would be a little bit different and fairly nice. So with the white and red, that's definitely going to bring us straight into like a fall, winter sort of feeling. But this is what I was talking about with wanting to do some of the larger patterns here. I'm doing this at a fairly fine gauge. So this is 63 stitches wide. And I think by the time I'm done, it's going to be like 70 something rows tall. But I really like the amount of detail that I'm getting. And the other part of the reason, besides the fact that this is the yarn that I have, that I wanted to do it like that, is because I don't want to cut down necessarily on the amount of knitting that I'm doing, because I really love to knit, but I want to cut down on the number of finished objects that I'm creating. So next year, the goal is 12. That sounds like a lot, but that's actually not a lot for me, so 12. One a month is what I'm shooting for. So doing some fairly fine work like that, and I think adding in a lot of the design work is also going to help slow some of that down. So this is the first design that I had come up with, and then I have a second one here, which you can see the heart and other hearts here, and I thought this would also could be a very interesting one for fall. It's a lot smaller. Notice this one's 43 stitches wide. And my goal is I have a lot of fall colors up here. So greens, dark red, and obviously this one here is done in purple. And I figured that would be really pretty. But I would like to do this as more of an all over design. And I don't have it's still kind of a work in progress. I have the actual math for that chart done. I just don't actually have the rest of the sweater put together, because I'm deciding whether or not I want poofy sleeves on it, quite frankly. So I want to be able to finish up the red and white one that I have, and then this gold one here, which actually should clear out most of the yarn that I've got. This blue that you see right here has kind of been a thing I've been thinking about, because that is a linen blend. Actually, that might just be straight linen. Let me see. Yeah, this is a linen blend, so it's 50% linen, 50% viscose. What I think may end up happening with these is going to be doing a summertime vest, but I'm not really sure. So that's the other big question that I have. I do have, up here that I can reach, a lot of my scrappy leftovers, and I want to go ahead and use some of those up. Oh, hold on a second, I have tiny arms. So the plan for that, to use up a lot of my scrappier bits, is actually to remake some of the pillows that we have for our living room here, using some of these larger stitch patterns that I'm putting together from, again, the 1500s, 1600s right in there, and be able to turn some of those into pillows. One, so that I can experiment with them, and two is because I think that would actually be a good use for some of them, because those repeats are they're sizable. they're big. They're real big. I can't wait to work with it. So anyway, that's kind of the plans for the rest of the year, is to go ahead and get those projects finished up, and to go through a lot of the books that I have, and to start putting together some of those larger motifs, and then I can show you what I've got. And hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I do, because I think color work is really, really fun. Now, next year, there's a couple things. So the plans for next year, and I'm already starting to put together the stuff to make this happen. One, I'm going to continue really focusing on my color work and my knitting, and that's a big goal there. The other thing that I'm going to be working on is sewing. So, let me explain about that. I was given a book. This is called Fabrics and Dress. That doesn't really have anything exciting on here. And this is a textbook from 1931 on how to dress. This covers basically beauty, hygiene, grooming, clothing, some basics for fabrics, some basics for sewing, and kind of like an intro into home economics. This was a textbook from 1931, so I've been reading through that and kind of getting some ideas as to what were the thought processes available in 1931, what was being taught in 1931, and frankly, because it takes books a little while to be printed, these are probably more the attitudes of the late 20s necessarily than the early 30s, if that makes sense. I will say for this book, it's it gets a little spicy at times. Like the author has some very, very definite opinions, and I will go ahead and put down some of the information below. I don't know if you can find this, but this is from the Riverside Home Economics series. So it's turning into its own interesting little read. So we're starting there. But then, because my sewing adventures have been, adventurous, I figured I would actually go into this with a little bit more of a plan. So I went through my books, and I happen to have a copy of Modern Pattern Design by Harriet Pippin. Pippin? Not really sure, but I'll include some of the information down below. And this is from 1942. And this book that I have here, it's actually like the equivalent of a textbook for how to do pattern design using her particular kind of method here, for 1942, more for women's clothing than anything else. But there There's a lot of instruction that's in here. It shows you how to make your own blocks, so how to make your own bodice block, skirt block, pants. It covers pants, like I think all 20 pages of all of the pants stuff. Where they're like, this might actually take hold. And underwear is also within this book, along with coats. So next year, what I wanted to do, again, shooting for 12 items, just 12, to go ahead and actually get an instruction book on how to do something properly and just kind of walk through and follow it. So the plan for next year is to only create a couple of items, but in some different categories, like 3 shirts, a couple pairs of pants, a coat, because that is on my bucket list, is to create a coat, and potentially look at some of the lingerie, bathing suit sort of items. Not that I live in a place where we're going to go swimming anytime, ever. If there's enough water around my house for there to be swimming, we have a very different set of problems. Things have gone horribly awry in life at that particular point in time. Anyway, but to go ahead and learn how to do some of this. And I will say, if you get this book and flip through it, there's a lot of options. They spend a lot of time talking about dart manipulation and how to get some different effects, but it's a set of instructions. So I'm really loving that idea, and I figured it would be more useful to kind of approach learning how to sew like that, rather than finding free patterns and sort of fumbling my way through said free patterns. Anyway, that's the goal with that one for next year, along with all of the color work. And I'm really hoping to be able to do some finer stuff with color work, and then if I get bored with doing some knitting stuff, I still have stuff that I can learn how to do. Tatting, which I'm probably going to have to learn how to do that anyway, so I can make some of the lace that I know is going to be asked for in this, in the sewing stuff. And also looking at some of the crochet designs, or designing my own crochet patterns. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been working on and what I plan on working on for the rest of the year, and then the more nebulous plans for next year. Of course, getting back into uploading more regularly, trying to teach myself to not let the desire for perfection to get in the way of something that's good enough, and to kind of get out of this comparing myself to other YouTubers, because that's a very dangerous and slippery slope to go down, because a lot of the other people that you're going to see who are big and popular, they've been doing this for quite some time. They may actually have some training or in their background, and they may actually also be able to hire professional editors to help with some of this. I also know that there is a whole lot of work that they are putting in that most of us don't see. It just looks magical. And when you compare yourself to somebody who's doing that, or fall into the trap of comparing yourself, it gets a little bit disheartening, and all of a sudden you look at your work and then you let the desire for the perfection to get in the way of doing something that is good, just getting it out there. And so kind of on my vacation, I've been doing some thinking about it, and realizing that, I don't necessarily always make exciting videos, but one of the things that I do feel that I can add to the conversation around knitting or crafting or anything like that is the fact that I'm terminally online, and I have zero issues digging through mountains of old books and magazines to find something that could be interesting and bring it out to you guys. So I kind of want to focus a little bit more on that. And I'll link some of the stuff that I found down below. Everything that I find, I either want to give you the title of the book so that you can look it up and see if you can find a copy yourself, or things that are already in the Creative Commons. They are publicly accessible, and so that you should have no issues being able to find them, so that you can work on doing some of your own design and design work. I had to kind of show you, or to at least share the things that I find interesting. And like I said, hopefully you'll find them interesting as well. So anyway, that's what's been going on. That's kind of what will be going on, and that's what will be going on in the, farther future. So thanks for sticking around. Hope you've had fun. And talk to you guys later.